And
Okay, we're live.
you've got another.
All right, welcome everyone to a city council meeting for Monday, April 25th, 2022. If we could have a roll call, Madam Clerk, to establish quorum.
Harry Meyer.
Here.
Melissa Green.
Here.
Nick Roberts.
Here.
Autumn Slane.
Here.
Bill Ott.
Here.
Terry McClung.
I'm here.
We have 6.
All right, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, get a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Second. All right, is there any corrections or any deletions? Yes, ma'am.
Oh, no, and agenda. I want to just postpone number 3 in new business. I don't have all the information I wanted.
Okay,
And I would like to add an agenda item if I could.
all right.
I move that we add an agenda discussion of dishonesty and credibility of our city officials
I'll second.
in the new business. And I would like to ask that it be brought up first
Wait,
before any others.
just a moment. What was that again?
Discussion of dishonesty and credibility of our city officials.
I'll second that.
And I also ask that we read that one first, if we could, under new business.
Why would we go first?
I just ask the amendment to put it as the first item on new business, first thing discussed.
All right. Do I have a second? I'm moving it up to the first item.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor of moving it up to the first item, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
No.
I only heard 5 votes. 3 and 2.
I heard 4. Roll call, please. Let's do this.
Terry McClung.
Sure. Yes.
Mr. Meyer.
No.
Miss Green.
No.
Miss Slane.
Yes.
Mr. Ott.
Aye.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
4-2.
Okay. Anything else? All those in favor of the agenda as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Get a motion to approve the minutes for April 11th.
So move.
Second.
I got a motion, Mr. Ott, and second, Mr. McClung. Any additions, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. In your packet, you will find under the Planning Commission and also HDC, Peter Graham's application. He's applying under both positions of vacancies for the Planning Commission, position number 3, and also under position number 1 for the Historic District Commission. That will be coming up at our next meeting. The CAPC first quarter financial report's has not been approved yet and will be submitted at our next meeting. And in your packet, you will find the first quarter financial reports for the parks and also for the cemetery. And under the cemetery, we have a vote for Robert Tollett to be on the Cemetery Commission.
I would move we accept that Robert's nomination to the Cemetery Commission.
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? Any comments? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. This moves us to our public comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Ferguson Stewart, 7 Harvey Road. I'm here to remind the public that, we've got elections coming up. We've got the primary, the Republican and Democratic primary coming up on May 24th. As part of that process is Meet the Candidate. The Chamber has sponsored a Meet the Candidate at the Crescent Hotel on April 28th at 6 p.m. So I hope all the public will be out there. Part of our process as being citizens is to vote. So I hope all of you get out some information when you meet the candidate and turn out. Early voting is May 9th, And regular voting is May 24th for primaries. Thank you.
And, Mr. Mayor, just one thing to add to that, it is a nonpartisan event. Both Democrat, Republican, and independent candidates will be there.
Hey you guys, I'm Samantha Jones, Marketing Director for Eureka Springs Hospital, and I brought you guys some fun treats and swag. Just to let you know, we are really committed to working with our community partners, and our Earth Day celebration last Friday is a prime example of that. So with Kathy here, she's the Activities Director at the Community Center. We brought in 250 local students to learn about the warning signs of a stroke and walk through the mega brain. I want to say a big thank you to the mayor for coming to give the Earth Day proclamation. It was a wonderful day, and we appreciate your support.
Again, I'm Kathy Seeger. I'm the Activities Director at the Eureka Springs Community Center. Thank you all for your support. If you haven't been over there lately, there's lots of new changes going on. The children were excited. We had a lot of high school students that helped out as well. And that's what the community center is all about, is inviting the community to be able to celebrate such joyous occasions. Thank you.
And the brain inside the auditorium, the gym there, looked like a sci-fi movie set.
Hello. Rodney Slane. I reside at 27 Pebble Rock. I'm a 10-year resident, Eureka Springs. I own multiple tax collecting businesses: Grotto, Upstairs, Venue, Slane Tavern, and Sauce Barbecue. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. I'll make it short. I know that there's a need to understand why these recordings were made. At some point, I started seeing that I was being manipulated by people in charge, by people closest to me. Might I call them friends, or had called them friends. I was told from multiple members of this council and CAPC Commission of allegations of embezzlement and misconduct. I knew no one would believe what was being portrayed to me. That's why I made the decision to record the meetings, only to protect the city and myself. As I acquired these, I felt the story was consistent amongst these individuals. I then reported the concerns in the beginning of 2021. I reported them in confidence to the mayor's office and the ethics board. I had hoped that our mayor would bring these atrocities to light. I thought surely this would come up in the deposition of Mr. Parker. What I found was a lot of, "I don't recall," and "I never said that." Even after the mayor's office had knowledge of possessing I had possessed audio recordings of a very different story. I had hoped our leader would abolish the manipulation and backdoor politics. It never once came up in front of this council for discussion. Never once was the money that was misused reported to the police. Yet, these allegations continue to be inappropriately flung around. For the council and the citizens that are upset, that I've upset, I'm sorry. But is it wrong to lie? Is it illegal to lie under oath? I find it funny that I've given you irrefutable evidence and some of you would rather dismiss it. Is that because of loyalty? I think that alone shows the level of collusion that currently takes place within our city. I love Eureka Springs. I've built my family, my dreams, my life here. We can't allow misconduct by a few to lead us down this path. Our city demands better. We demand all the backdoor politics stop. I'm hoping this will force us to implement term limits in the way the council is conducted. I'm asking for clarification. I'm asking for transparency. This council promised us transparency. I got all messed up there. Let me leave you with this quote. Truth does mind being questioned. doesn't mind being questioned. A lie does like to be challenged. Thank you very much for your time.
My name is Ken Riley. I don't live in the city, but I've got a couple of properties here in town, and one of them is helping with the CAPC funding, nightly rentals. I'm really just looking for real solutions instead of trials on Facebook. I just heard the word atrocity, and when I hear that word, I think of the Ukraine. Nothing here is perfect. I'm not perfect. I don't know about the rest of you, but I just assume not. I think that if we worked more towards solutions and then how could we screw somebody, we might all be in a little bit better shape. I moved here. When people ask me what my biggest regret about leaving Chicago is, I tell them that it took me 50 years to find Eureka Springs. That's my biggest regret about leaving Chicago. But to see trials on Facebook and that just really kind of sets me off wrong. There are people that show up. One of them doesn't even live in the state anymore. And she's, complaining about parking meters and stuff like that. I stood up in her wedding. I went to the Virgin Islands with her and her husband. And when I refused to say something that she told me, when I refused to say that I heard this person tell her that, I was cut off. And she has systematically gone around picking on this person and that person, and I really don't get it. When we lived in Chicago, Harold kept bail money with his secretary for me because I was organizing the old, it's not funny. I never had to use it, but he kept bail money because I was organizing the old people to work against the gangs there. I tried working with the aldermans. At one point, I was one of these people that I'm complaining about right now. I thought that I had done a good job if I could have one of the alderman's secretaries in tears by the time that I left. I got nothing. What I did get eventually was there was one alderman on this corner, a different alderman on that corner, and then one on these two corners. What I did get eventually was redistricted into an alderman that I just could not stand. She referred to the Latin Kings as the youth organizers. And I kept fighting with her about that, and she says, well, they are. Who else is doing anything? So what I'm trying to say is that there are solutions other than who can we screw the worst today to get things solved. There's a game called the Red and Black game that I played in a personal growth seminar that I wish there was some way that I remembered how to present it to everybody here in Eureka Springs. Screwing each other is not the way to get ahead unless you're married to them or want to be married to them. And I am beeping now. Thank you.
I apologize, Mr. Riley. I couldn't help myself. Birds of a feather, you understand.
No more comments? All right, that concludes public comments for this evening. If we'll go on then to our next order of business, it's under ordinance number 2322, the city attorney's position for the
I make a motion to discuss ordinance number 2322.
I'll second that.
All right, we have, this is the third and final reading. We made some, cleaned it up a little bit. I think in your package you can see the basic changes. Some of it was elimination, a couple of words, and modified some of the others. But the substance still remains the same as done. Mr. McClung?
I'd like to make a motion that we suspend the rules and read ordinance number 2322 by title only for its third and final reading.
I'll second.
Mr. McClung made the motion, Mr. Myers second. Any
Point of order,
discussion?
do we need to throw in there as amended?
That is correct. So this is as amended.
It's already been amended.
Okay.
So any further discussion? Is this roll call or voice?
It would be roll call, and
Go ahead and do a roll call.
I don't think the amendments have actually been read because they were made in between meetings.
All right, why don't you, Mr. Meyer, Ms. McClung, remove your,
I'll withdraw my second.
and Ms. McClung, and just read it in its entirety, so we'll be on the safe side.
You want to read it by its entirety?
Yeah. Because we did make some
Okay.
changes.
I'd like to
Yeah.
make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that we place ordinance number 22 up for its third reading in its entirety.
All right.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, Madam Clerk.
Does that involve reading it?
Beg your pardon?
In its entirety, does that involve reading it?
Reading it in its entirety. Yes, please.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
I guess we really need a vote on that since there was a motion to read it. Voice vote?
Yes,
All in
please.
favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Ordinance 2322, an ordinance to define the position of city attorney. Whereas the current Eureka Springs Municipal Code requires the city attorney or his or her deputy to be a prosecutor in district court. And whereas the civil duties of the city attorney are separate, distinct, and not related to the prosecution duties of the city attorney. Now therefore be it hereby ordained by the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Section 1, it is deemed expedient and appropriate to define the position of city attorney who shall be a licensed Arkansas attorney to handle the civil responsibilities of the city separate from the city prosecuting attorney responsibilities. Section 2, Code Section 2.32.02 qualifications shall be amended by adding, quote, "The city attorney shall not be required to be elected, nor shall he or she be required to be a resident of Eureka Springs if no resident attorney of Eureka Springs is qualified and seeks the office. The mayor of Eureka Springs has the authority to hire the city attorney if a city resident attorney is not duly elected or no one seeks the office," end quote. Section 3, Code Section 2.32.04F shall be amended by replacing reference to, quote, "city attorney" with, quote, "city prosecuting attorney." Section 4, Code Section 2.32.05 salary shall be amended to the city attorney, quote, "The city attorney shall receive as compensation for his or her service $1,800 per month for all hours of professional service rendered on matters of a civil nature. The city attorney shall attend city council meetings at the request of the mayor or other such meetings as deemed appropriate," end quote. All references to flat fees for meetings, hourly compensation, and itemized statements for compensation are hereby deleted and repealed.
Mr. McClung?
I can make a motion that we approve ordinance 2322 on its third and final reading.
I'll second.
Mr. McClung made the motion, Mr. Myers second to approve on third and final reading. Any further discussion? Oops.
Ms. Lane?
Yes.
Mr. Ott?
Aye.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
6-0.
Mayor, do we need to move to pass the emergency clause?
Yes, sir.
So move.
Get a second?
Yeah, second.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion? To read the emergency clause? All right.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
Ms. Lane?
Yes.
Mr. Ott?
Yes.
Emergency Clause, Section 6, due to the need to consistently apply all laws and ordinances of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, and for the health and safety of the citizens of the city, an emergency is hereby declared to exist, and this ordinance shall take effect upon passage by the Eureka Springs City Council and signing by the mayor and clerk treasurer.
All right, so moved.
Mr. Mayor, do we need to swear him in?
Beg pardon?
Do we need to swear Forrest in?
We can go ahead and proceed.
Okay.
Yep. We can do that later. I get a motion to discuss ordinance number 2323.
So moved.
Second.
All right, good motion. And again, this is the separation, the second part of the city attorney's position was being the prosecuting attorney, and we've split those two, and this is the second half of that job. And again, we made some minor changes in through here. So if I can get a motion to read ordinance 2323 for its third reading.
I'll make a motion to read ordinance number 2323 as amended for its third reading.
I'll second that, but it's 2322.
No?
Nope.
2323.
Oh, okay. Mine says 2322.
There's another one.
No? I got two of the same. Sorry.
My apology.
Oh, that's okay.
All right, we got a motion and a second. So any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? So moved.
Ordinance 2323, an ordinance to create the position of city prosecuting attorney. Whereas the current Eureka Springs Municipal Code requires a city attorney or his or her deputy to be a prosecutor in district court. And whereas the prosecution duties of the city attorney are separate, distinct, and not related to the civil duties of the city attorney. Therefore, it is deemed expedient and appropriate to create the position of city prosecuting attorney, who shall be a licensed Arkansas attorney, to handle the prosecution responsibilities of the city in district court, separate from the city attorney civil responsibilities. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, Section 1, Code Section 2.32.01, specified, shall be amended by adding, quote, "The office of city prosecuting attorney is separate and distinct from the office of city attorney," end quote. Section 2, Code Section 2.32.02, qualifications, shall be amended by adding, quote, "The city prosecuting attorney shall not be required to be elected, nor shall he or she be required to be a resident of Eureka Springs," end quote. Section 3, the mayor of Eureka Springs has the authority to hire the city prosecuting attorney. Section 4, Code Section 2.32.04E, shall be amended by replacing references to the city attorney with city prosecuting attorney. Section 5, Code Section 2.32.05, salary, shall be amended by adding, quote, "The city prosecuting attorney shall receive, as compensation for his or her services, $1,700 per month for all hours of professional services rendered on matters of a criminal nature."
Mr. McClung?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2323 on its third final reading.
I'll second that.
Mr. McClung made the motion and Ms. Green second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Ott?
Aye.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Lane?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
6-0.
Move to read the emergency clause for ordinance number 2323.
I'll second.
Mr. Ott made the motion to read the emergency clause, and Mr. Meyer second. Any discussion? Hearing none?
Ms. Lane?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
Mr. Ott?
Aye.
6-0. Emergency Clause, Section 6. Due to the need to consistently apply all laws and ordinances of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, and for the health and safety of the citizens of the city, an emergency clause is hereby declared, an emergency is hereby declared to exist, and this ordinance shall take effect upon passage by the Eureka Springs City Council and signing by the mayor and clerk treasurer.
All right,
Okay.
so moved. That brings us up to our next item, is an update on department head views regarding proposed raises. Get a motion to discuss.
So moved.
Second.
We met with all the department heads and brought to their attention to raising all the minimum wage people wages up to the already at $15 an hour, and this is full-time employees. And they have resubmitted their new budgets indicating that all full-time employees now will have a minimum of $15 an hour budget, or $15 an hour salary. It brings a total to approximately, with the benefits and everything, to approximately $110,000 to our budget, which we can address at a mid-year term. Make that when we look at amending our mid-year budget. So
Point of inquiry, does that reflect what we got presented at our last meeting?
I don't think so.
Yes.
It's a little bit different.
Not with the current. We made some modifications in through there.
Do we know what the difference in total dollars is from,
Oh, the additional total is $110,000 total, Mr. Ott. I'm not sure what that states on there.
It was 120 on the estimate.
We do have our finance director up here, and Michael, and I don't know, I'm not looking at what you are, Mr. Ott, so,
Yeah, this looks like almost 121.
Yeah, we went back.
that
and-
may be with, go ahead.
Yeah, we talked to the department heads, and pretty much what we submitted to you last week is kind of where it's at. There were just a few little tweaks that they made to it. The actual number that it's going to, the annual actual number is $122,755.20. Now, the thing to remember is we only have 8 months left in the year, so it's going to actually cost us about $82,000 to implement these raises.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Ott?
yes, sir, it does. Do we need to take action on this?
No, we can do that mid-year budget review.
Okay.
Mr. McClellan?
That was my question. We don't have to,
No, we have the money in the budget right now, and we will be implementing this as soon as everybody gets their paperwork in to the office, to my office. There's still paperwork they have to do.
as you're referring to the department heads.
Correct. But we're probably looking at, I think we said within a week, a maximum of 2 weeks.
So by the second pay period of May,
Right.
It'll actually be the first pay period in May.
First-
Because
oh,
we
first-
just, we have a pay period that ends that will be this
Yes.
Friday, will be the end of the month, and so it'll be the first pay period in May. And we can get them in there by then, get it all taken care of.
thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Meyer.
This is amazing. This is good. We have been working hard for the last few years to give our employees better wages. Now that the city is doing better, we've watched the budget closely, now we've done it. I think we owe ourselves a pat on the back.
And thank you, Mayor Berry, for following up on this.
All right, any further questions? All right, if not, we'll continue on to item number 4 under unfinished business, which is discussion of assigned parking for residential streets. And we have Kylie with our planning, and also Ansa Lee, who's the chairperson of planning. If I can get a motion to discuss.
I'll make a motion to
discuss.
discuss.
I'll second. Oh, well, you
All right, Ms. Green made a motion, and Mr. Meyer seconded. How's that? All right,
That's fine.
Kylie.
I love the enthusiasm. Thank you all for inviting us to come talk about the recent parking study that the Planning Commission has conducted. This was part of their 2022 goals. And this study aimed to gain objective data about parking availability in key residential areas. We also wanted to understand resident experiences and figure out what solutions they would actually be supportive of. So we looked specifically at R1 zoned properties. So those are only residential properties along key streets. We sent out questionnaires to residents on Elk, Kings Highway, Mountain, Owen, Pine, Prospect, Spring, Washington, and White. And in total, we ended up sending out 127 surveys, and we received only 38 responses, which is about a 30% response rate. That's a little bit lower than we were hoping for, but we were still really thankful to get a lot of good feedback from those surveys. So in conjunction with those questionnaires, the commissioners actually also conducted a windshield survey where they drove around to these same properties and just did a boots on the ground. How much off-street parking do we have? How many homes do we have? And how many striped parking spots do we have, if any? So all of that information kind of informed the Planning Commission's discussions of potential solutions. And I'll actually pass this over to the chair of the Planning Commission to discuss those.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and City Council, for having us. When asked what parking solutions they would support, signage or a permit system were highly supported by the residents. The recent study indicates that residents of these streets would likely support a residential-only parking program, though the majority is unwilling to pay for the permits. The data indicates that signage would be a meaningful first step to addressing residential parking difficulties along the streets that reported the most parking challenges and have the most limited supply of on-street parking. The Commission identified 5 streets: Mountain, Elk, Owen, Pine, and a portion of Spring Street. Mountain, Elk, Owen, and Pine. The recommendation is signage indicating the entire street is residential only from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. daily. Spring Street. Signage indicating the entire street is residential only from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. daily. Stripe and sign free public parking on the north side of Spring between 303 and Grotto Spring. We have to follow up with the B&Bs, tourist lodging, and multifamilies that have off-street parking to remind them to use their off-street parking. They must use it. Unfortunately, if they don't, and we are working with them, it may be a cause for revocation. If they have parking and don't use it, and they agreed to, then it's an area we have to address, and we hope we don't have to. We want to work with these people. But B&Bs must use provided off-street parking according to ordinance number 2309. On the reporting of vehicle identification enforcement, residential parking would be enforced on a complaint basis. Issues could be reported using the non-emergency number of 479-253-8666. In discussion with the Eureka Springs Police Chief, it was determined that officers could run tags and issue citations as warranted. This would reduce the costs associated with administering a permit system, stickers, or hand tags for each resident. Most cities rely on either a Department of Motor vehicle registration data or a costly online permitting system. For tourist lodging, B&Bs, and multifamily dwellings without adequate off-street parking, the city could provide a set number of hangings, difference between required parking and available parking, for vehicles to identify them as visitors, hang tags, I'm sorry. These must be returned to the manager landlord when leaving or moving out. Other examples, business locations needing on-street parking could purchase an annual parking permit for guest employees. They do this in Aspen and Santa Cruz, California. Hosts of non-residents could purchase a guest permit, 3-day limit per vehicle or day passes. Only residents can request these permits. This is used in Aspen, Colorado, and in Eugene, Oregon. Do you have any questions?
Mr. McClung?
Yeah, that's a lot of information, Ann. Thank you very much. And it's pretty confusing to me on how we can really implement these things, and not necessarily implement them, but make them stick. And it seems to me, to get a better understanding and a feel for how this would all work, I would be real comfortable with the Planning Commission and the council having an informal workshop on this to get a better understanding and a layout of what really is.
I'd be happy
what
to
you
do
want to
that.
do.
I think that's an excellent idea.
Pardon me?
I think that's an excellent idea.
Yeah, I think it would be good. I would certainly have a better feel for what you got in mind, you know,
Okay.
seeing it.
Sure.
That's
Mr. Meyer?
just
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, too.
Okay.
It's a complicated issue, and
It's not
probably
going to be, it's not going to be a win-win for anybody.
No, it won't.
No, of course
No.
not. But maybe some of our residents will have a place to park when they come home at 6 o'clock at night, you know.
Possibly so. Would you like me to have Kylie get that set up?
Please.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, yeah, thank you so much for doing that work.
Okay, thank you. I look
Yeah.
forward to the workshop.
And Mayor, do we need to take action on a date or anything for that?
I
or-
think that's what he said, Kylie, and
Okay, so we just go along with whatever that date is and we show up?
we'll be taking a poll, Mr.
Okay.
Ott, and determining the best date for all the council
Good.
members to attend.
Don't wanna miss
And the
it.
planning commission. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Solly, very much. All right, that brings us up to new business. Get a motion to discuss the dishonest and, forgot what the rest of your
Discussion of dishonesty and credibility of our city
credibility.
officials.
Thank you. Get a motion to discuss.
I make a motion we discuss.
I'll second that.
All right. Mr. Roberts?
I'll start. And if you bear with me, I just want to get through this, and there's just a statement I want to make. Mr. Berry, fellow aldermen, and fellow Eurekans, I'm going to speak on the recent events concerning myself and members of this council. First, I want to start off by saying that I'm not staging a coup to overthrow or remove anyone from office. This is not for me to decide. That would be decided by the courts and by the electorate of Eureka Springs this coming November. When I was appointed to this council last year, by most of you sitting around this table, I was truly honored, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and I jumped right in. One of the first things I noticed was it's not a council of one, it's a council of 6. The second thing I noticed was an array of rules and regulations, from the beginning of council meetings to closing statements. It is all governed by rules and regulations. In the day-to-day running of the government, the mayor, the councilman, and other departments and commissions are all governed by rules and regulations. They are all in place so that the government works smoothly with full transparency. But when rules and regulations are not followed, well, here we are. Was I out of turn when I spoke out at the end of the last council meeting? Yes, and I apologize for that. Big learning experience. But like most of you here, I've read the recent articles published in the lovely County Citizen and listened to many of the full recordings and read depositions. Was I surprised? No. Most things mentioned were spreading around town for years. But what surprised and saddened me most was the overreach and the lack of transparency of some elected and appointed officials within the city leadership. Our code of conduct states, quote unquote, that we serve as a model of leadership and civility to the municipality and that the council inspire public confidence in local government, end quote. Sadly, from what I've heard from the people of Ward 1 and from other city residents, is that they have lost confidence and credibility in our city leadership, rightfully so. Until this cloud of suspicion and mistrust hanging over the city is addressed, we will have a difficult time gaining back the public's trust. I want this council to succeed. We've had and will have our disagreements, and the road ahead might not be easy, but we will succeed. Finally, and most importantly, I want the people of Ward 1 and the rest of the wonderful residents of our city to be proud of the work they have entrusted in us to do. Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Slane?
I have a couple of things I'm going to pass out. This is just more proof of the dishonesty that's going on here. This has been going on since 2018. We have had multiple news articles come out.
Here, let me do that. Well, you sit down and talk. One of each.
One of each. And again, this is not some smear campaign, as you say. I just want to just be heard. When I joined as well, all I wanted was transparency and honesty from my coworkers here at this table. But every time I bring something up, it's, oh, you shouldn't talk about that. Let's not mention that at the table. Let's put that aside. So in this first article, it talks about FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. Our FOIAs are required within 3 days from the state. It was a conversation in 2018 that was on the agenda tonight, but I don't know why it's not anymore. We were having problems navigating the FOIAs. In 2015, we had 16. 2016, we had 65. 2017, we had 48. And 2018, we had 56. So they've just steadily increased, which just gives me the understanding that our community and our citizens don't trust what we're doing here. I don't trust what we're doing here. So I understand. What this particular article was about was our water meters and how there's basically lying going on, and nothing was being brought to the forefront of our community. The second report is an engineering report of Main Street, where many of you guys know that we had a sinkhole not too long ago. There's still an issue. There's still a problem. I have mentioned these privately, and none of this has been brought to the council or the public. This survey was done in 2010. This is underneath the Odd, this building. It's become a safety risk to not only our community, our visitors, and nothing's wanted to be said about this at the table. And then, of course, the most recent newspaper ad of what's been going on most recently. I don't trust anybody up here, to be honest. And I have done my due diligence to make sure that that's been known and heard, and I have no idea what to even say here. I think the recordings speak for themselves.
Mr. Meyer?
I don't know what to say. You don't trust anybody? You don't trust anyone up here at this table? It's ridiculous. Then why are you here? I'm dumbfounded. Now, some of this stuff is from some people who complained about everything. They did 58 FOIAs in 1 year because there was nothing the Eureka Springs City Council or the city could do to satisfy one pair of people. There was nothing this city could do at all that would satisfy them. Now, if y'all are going to assume that attitude that we're all liars, you have to secretly record us, you've only been here a little while, but you know everything. I'm just dumbfounded that you can be so smart in such a short amount of time.
Ms. Green?
Well, I'm going to say this. Yes, I was recorded. I was talking to a friend. I was voicing my opinions throughout the whole conversation. I say, I think. Those are opinions, whether they're right or wrong. I didn't accuse anybody of anything, but I am ashamed. I was gossiping with a friend. I couldn't believe that a friend would record me. That would be the last thing I would ever do, even if I was angry or thought they were hiding something. For me, it's as low can be. And the recording of Mayor Butch was helping you, Autumn. He was trying to assimilate you to be a good council person. And you're the one asking them about the embezzlement. You're the one that brought up that word. Miss Johnson, if that's who we're talking about, cannot embezzle. She doesn't have her hands on the money. What I was told about her after I heard that rumor over and over and over, I talked with Kim, and she was allowed to use her production company and bill us twice. To me, I don't like that, but that's an opinion.
Just a minute, it's council discussion, please.
Yeah, you have to be quiet. Yes, I'm ashamed that I got caught gossiping, but, I know most of you out there, I've gossiped with you before. I've seen you gossip. We all have opinions, and sometimes our opinions aren't liked by other people. I just think this was low. I really think it was low, and I'm going to say this, and this is what makes me the most angriest. As a city council person, as a mayor, we are taxed with the health, the safety, and the welfare of the people of this town. When you actively help someone that is suing our town for $16 million, you're not thinking of the health, the safety, and welfare. Why didn't you come to me and bring me that tape? Why did you give it out? It was in all our depositions, so it was out before that. I sat there and listened to them all. I was there. I watched when Butch was asked about that, and he was just perplexed. He doesn't remember it. He doesn't recall. So what? That doesn't make him dishonest or uncredible. He just doesn't recall. I don't recall. I recall talking to Rodney because I called him to talk to him about being on the CAPC. And we had, I think, 2 or 3 different conversations, and you were my friend, Rodney. I actually, other than I said I was worried about the conflict of interest with your wife being on the on the council electing you. That was my only concern. I was excited to probably have... What?
Ms. Green?
No,
Ms. Green.
no, don't acknowledge him.
Ms. Green, please continue.
Okay.
Ms. Green, please continue.
Okay. I just think what happened at the last meeting, and we're going to discuss that in the code of conduct, this is newspaper articles. Does everybody believe what's put in the paper? I don't. I find out stuff myself. The one thing I'm going to say is our side in this lawsuit has not tried our court case in public opinion. Our case is not out in the public. You don't know our side. And I'm going to ask that anybody out there that has a brain, reserve your judgment until this is over and hear our side. It might change your mind, it might not. But wait until you make judgments, and before you believe everything that's in a paper. Really, I don't, because it's so easy. I can say the sky is blue except when it's black, and they can write the sky is blue. So I look like an idiot because everybody knows the sky is dark at night. So I'm a little offended by some of this, and I'm offended by some of the behavior here. And Nick, I was the one that went up and asked you to be on city council. I thought you were exuberant, and you have...
Honest?
I really saw good things. And last week, I was just shocked at you. I was really shocked, and I guess I was hurt. And I was shocked by the 2 of you. Instead of standing here and confronting us after here, you ran out of here. You didn't have the guts to actually sit down and confront us. If I've done something wrong, come and confront me. I'm not perfect. I've never said I was perfect.
All right. Anybody else? Mr. Meyer?
If we want to work together, it has to be done a little bit differently than telling people that we're tidily, all of us are dishonest. It's just, you're going the wrong direction if you want to work with us. That's just not the way democracy works. Everyone has a different opinion.
Ms. Slane?
I feel that it has been requested by this council and even in this room right today that a good council person is to follow direction and to be persuaded by other people. And I just don't, I'm not going to be persuaded by anybody in this room other than my constituents. I serve the community. I do not serve the mayor or this council. So these private conversations that I should have had after the council meeting is not appropriate in my opinion. You know, I had private conversations with many of you before I sat on this table, and it was definitely told to me that I need to have certain opinions. And when that didn't align, it was not a compromise, it was not an understanding, it was more of, well, this is how we do things. So, yeah, I struck hot, and I'm sorry about that. But honestly, there is some dirty politics, and I fought dirty.
Mr. McClung?
Yeah, as far as these two things, I'm not familiar. I mean, I'm familiar with this from when this was done and it was discussed, and how I recall that was looked at, you know, because it's property owners involved in all of that too. And then this, yeah, I mean, I didn't know this was coming in front of us, but I understand about the freedom of information. It's time consuming. It can be when you get overrun with it, but a lot of it is, you know, well, it's hard to define. Some of it is frivolous and some of it is not. You know, it has to be addressed, but however it's addressed, it has to be, you know, handled by the city. If we wouldn't have so much of that if people were, you know, if everyone was following the rules and playing according to Hoyle. We wouldn't have so many freedom of information requests. That's my opinion. As far as this that I have in front of me with this citizen article, you know, this pertains mostly to the CAPC, as I read it, and I would like to get all of that behind us for sure. I think that is a nasty thing that's going on there, and you know, there's appearances that people are not playing fairly and doing things, you know, underneath the table. I'm not exactly sure how to describe it. But, you know, I'm not happy with the CAPC and the way things are working there. It's just not good. And with the history of it, in line with it. Laugh all you want to, Harry.
You've been crying about the CAPC since you lost your spot.
Mr. Meyer, please. Please, Mr. Meyer. Just
Okay.
let Mr. McClung finish.
Yeah, this is, you know, this is whatever it is, whichever way it goes, I just would like to see it behind us so we can get on with city business. You know, I don't like any of this. It's not the way, that's not what I'm here for. It's not what I participate in.
Ms. Green?
I'm going to agree with Autumn. I do learn from my fellow citizens. Otherwise, I couldn't come to this table and voice my opinion. But where I really learn, and I've talked with commissioners about this, I don't like to see commissions or the council stacked with friends. I like a wide variety of people, because you know what? That's where I learn. And so many times, and I'm going to admit it, stuff comes to this table, and I really don't know what it is. I've read the reports, but I listen to the people at this table, and I have respect for most of them. And especially you, Terry, I listen to you more than you'll ever know. And that guides me a lot of times. So I want a diverse council. That's how we learn. That's how we make good laws. And listening to your citizens, we're going to make comments. We're going to gossip. You know, it's like I said, I'm not proud of it, but each and every one of you sitting here knows that you've done exactly what I've said. We've all gossiped, but we learn from it. Mr. McClung, the CAPC, since I've come here, has gone up and down. What I will say, and I think you were part of this, right now it is running very, very efficiently. Our finance department, every penny has a receipt, an invoice, or a contract. Everything that comes in, everything that goes out is scrutinized very, very deeply before any monies are sent out. Scott has worked incredibly hard and found a bunch of people that haven't been paying their taxes. They're now paying our taxes. Our coffers are going up even more. I'm not saying they were dishonest. I think they were ill-informed, but he's found them, and he's worked incredibly hard. All our contracts with the CAPC, when I got there and started reading them, and I'm not a lawyer, but I was like, oh my God, and sent them right off to Tim Weaver. And they were something that would not protect us. Those things have been changed. Our auditorium is making more money than it's ever made. We've got 2 to 3 big shows coming a month. There's a lot to be said. And like I said, Mr. McClung, you played a huge part in that. Harry and I played a huge part in that. And I hope it continues to go that way, because, sure, it's going to have warts. We all have warts. But I think we all start to need to work together and start realizing what's right for me may be wrong for you, and accept that, you know, and learn from it. Because when we start doubting our opinions, that's when we become stupid.
Mr. Roberts?
I need to remind everyone, this is a discussion of dishonesty and credibility of our city officials, not attacking someone who is bringing to light information and being transparent with the public. Don't shoot the messenger. Have you heard that before? Like, the honorable person here, Autumn is very honorable and has provided information that's going to make our town better in the future, because we'll have knowledge to vote accordingly. And the town is not pretending to be perfect. We need to know, the people need to know what's going on. The dishonesty, the gossiping, that's not something we should be doing in this role. City folk can gossip all they want, but we don't have that luxury, especially when you're defaming other people's livelihoods. So any attack to Autumn, I think, is not warranted and is definitely unfair, and it pretty much speaks for your character when you say these types of things about people that are being honest, because the point here is being honest and transparent. Why would you argue against honesty and transparency?
Mr. Mayor, I hear all this about honesty, dishonesty, and this person's dishonest, and that guy's dishonest, and I don't like the way that's run. Tell us what it is. Who's lied to you? Who's been honest? Who told you that you can't, that you got to keep this a secret? Who is it that... I want to know. This is the subject. Now come on out and come out with your complaints.
Point of,
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor?
All right, Mr. Ott.
just point of inquiry. I know we're discussing this, but there's no action that can be taken by this council on these subjects. If it's to be litigated, does it not get litigated through the city attorney, the city prosecuting attorney, for misfeasance, malfeasance, or nonfeasance? What I'm saying is we're talking about hearsay and innuendo, and I don't see where we as a council, except for just hearing this, can take any action on this. With that said, I would move to close debate on this topic.
Do I have a second?
If it's okay, I still have something I'd like to say.
Well, is there a second for that, for Mr.
Yeah.
Wood? All right, I got a motion and a second to close the debate. Any discussion on that?
Yeah, I would like to discuss that, Butch, that Harry wanted me to give an example.
No,
So
well, all right.
Harold
We're talking about closing the debate. That's what the.
yeah, I'm still going to say what I'm going to say, whether you try to stop
Well-
me or not, because it's the truth.
You're going to stomp your feet and
I'm
hold
not
your breath.
afraid of you. It's nothing you can, it's not, you're not trying to attack
No, if the
me.
debate is closed, the debate is closed.
It's not closed
That's a
yet.
motion, that's a motion on the.
not
Point of
closed yet.
order. He had his hand up before the motion was made.
And I
You
was
pushed the motion.
That's on you.
I believe he has the right to say what he needs to say.
The motion to close the debate, I think, takes precedence, if I'm not mistaken, over any other motion. Mr.
Even though his
Jacoby?
hand was up before the motion was made.
I believe that's true.
The question is, does the president have to, we've got.
I was asked a question by Harry, so I'm providing an answer.
Another hush tactic, you guys.
We
Just
have
so
a
you know.
motion to,
Mr. Mayor, so there won't be any more innuendos or, oh, did you see what they just did? I'll be glad to hold off my motion
Okay.
for the further discussion.
all right, Mr. Roberts, continue, please.
There's a group in Eureka Springs called Eureka and Local Politics. Some may be familiar with that site. On that site, and it was originally Bob Thomas, and he had a big thing about code of conduct and how things are being handled, which I totally agree with, because that's the right way to do things, and that's what I'm asking for. But Harold F.W. Meyer, I've been told we will have citizens coming to the next council meeting demanding the resignation of the mayor and certain council members. This is the result of a private recording made by a member of the council. Another council member has made assumptions of improprieties during an open meeting without substance. Citizens, exclamation mark. We have an attempted coup developing, exclamation mark. Now, if that's not dishonest and making up stuff and drawing things, I don't think that a council person should be doing and lying like that in a public forum, nor is Facebook the place. Hence why I don't respond to the
not a
ignorance
lie.
you blast on there.
It's my opinion.
Mr. Meyer, please.
No, you made a statement. Can citizens, we have an attempted coup developing. That was an alert. Causing panic for nothing. Because you assume we're bad because we're calling out people for asking them or addressing to the public that people need to speak the truth. That's all we're asking is transparency, truth. None of these FOIA things should be frightening anyone. I'm not afraid of being FOIA. Text me, ask me what I sent people. I don't care, because I'm always going to be honest. And that's all we're asking you guys to be, and we're very disappointed that you haven't been.
All right, anything else?
I have one question.
Ms. Green?
Nick, how are we being dishonest?
I'm sure you've heard the recordings.
What was
We're going
dishonest?
into
Like, I don't
newspaper
remember
reporting
something
lists.
that you do remember. I don't have to speculate, but because everybody here, I think everyone, why do you see, we have a big
I
audience.
think we're getting into trial by newspaper.
And so by this big audience, I
Yeah.
think that they're interested in the fact that you guys have lied to the city and defamed people of the city. And that's on record, so that's why this is being just brought up. So it's warranted. Wouldn't you say so, folks?
No. All right,
Mr. Hunt.
okay. Any further discussion on this? All right, let's move on to our next order of business then. Get a motion to discuss food truck lottery.
Motion to discuss the
Second.
food truck lottery.
All right, got a motion and by Ms. Green and second by Mr. Myers. Madam Clerk?
Of the 5 new opportunities, there are 3 in play, so I guess technically they all win. Wagner Inn in the 3,000 block of East Van Buren, the New Tuscan Manor, which is across from Public Works in the 3,000 block, and the Community Center, 44 Kings Highway. So we'll have 3 new locations.
Oh, congratulations to all of them.
So they just need to come in and file the paperwork.
Actually, it's done in reverse. They get the inspections first, and then they put their name in the hat.
Okay.
So it
Good to
worked
go.
well. Thank you for your action on that.
All right. Get a motion to discuss the ordinance to redistrict the wards.
I make a motion.
I'll second that.
All right. We got a, Madam Clerk, I think this is something you've drafted up because of the latest census.
Actually, what I did is pull the Tim Weaver approved ordinance from the last time the ward lines were adjusted to try to get approximately the same number of people in each ward. And as this is being read, you'll notice that what has happened is that Ward 3, well, the most densely populated ward, of course, is 2, where we are physically right now. 3 is less populated. It's to the south primarily. And so that line got pushed north into 2. And also Ward 1, out west of town, got pushed eastward into 2 to try to get approximately 205 people in each ward within a...
How many people? I'm sorry.
205. We know that some of the people on the voting list are deceased, or they've moved, or they haven't changed their location, but we have to work with what the county provides from the voter registration. So it's not going to be perfect, but it's as close as we could get it. And Mr. Meyer was kind enough to walk through a reading of this and compare the map so that the description in this ordinance matches with what he was observing.
Mr. McClellan?
Yeah, I would like to see a comparison of the maps. It's hard for me to follow on just a legal description. I don't have that. There's not one here. I don't have one.
No, the reason for that is the document with which I was working is so large, there's no one local who can scan it. So after I'll go get it for you. You can follow along if you'd like. It's drawn on the surface of, it's sealed. I'm happy to go get it so you can follow along. It's
not like this one that Autumn has pulled up on.
No, that is a 36 by 32 inch image, which I took to an engineering firm. They put it on a disc. That disc got loaded on the city website. The document with which I worked to modify the lines is of the same size, and I'll have to take it to a place in Fayetteville after you folks give your nod to it and have that same process followed so we can update what's on the city website. We don't have the technology to do that here in town.
Then I need you to repeat to me, because it didn't quite register exactly, the redistricting is being done because the population has changed that much between the wards? Is that what you're saying?
No, after each census, the boundaries get modified to have an equal number of voters in each ward within a 3% margin. Well, 2 to 6%, but I go for 3% if I can. And so it's that the line for Ward 3 moved north into Ward 2. The primary change is you'll see that the Corley Loop was picked up in 3.
What part of Ward 3 moves north?
It's described here.
That's
Point of inquiry.
That's a complicated legal description.
I used the same template that you approved last time and went over.
I understand, but that's complicated. I mean,
All
it's
right,
not.
Mr. Ott's got a point of order here.
Well, point of inquiry, it's a matter of, if we can do it after we approve it, can we see those maps before we approve it? What we have now and what is proposed? And I think it may come clear to all of us, because I agree with Councilman McClung that this is a little bit hard to understand, but if we see it pictorially, it might be a little bit easier to understand.
Well, if you can't trust that two people went over this with a fine-tooth comb,
It's not,
I will gladly go get the map, and you can follow it while it's read. And I
it's
need
not
to
a
let you
matter
know-
of trust, it's just a matter of helping us understand if we're going to take a vote on it.
We do not have the technology to provide that document. The closest thing I could do is bring the original here so those who don't visualize well can follow along. I'm happy to go get it. I will also let you know that the county cannot provide the new voting cards until we go through this process and get this information to them. And the longer we drag our heels, the smaller their window will be for making those adjustments. I'm happy to go get the map if you would have a higher level of confidence in the project, the product, by being able to follow along. I'll go get it right now if you'd like.
It's not a matter of confidence, and it sure isn't a matter of trust, and I take issue with you using those words, but it's just a matter of understanding. And that's what I was asking for. If we can afford to get the other map made after the vote, could we afford to get it before the vote and then show before or after? Or simply get a wax pen and show on the map that you have now, this is what's going there and this is what's moving here. That might be a little bit easier to understand.
Can we take a 5-minute break and I'll go get the map?
Ms. Green?
Well, I understand it. I mean, I'm looking at it and I understand. I can read it. But we've got an election coming up pretty soon. If we don't get this passed, I think it's going to affect that, isn't it? Because
it's going to create a logjam at the county offices, and I've been doing my best to work within their time frame, which is why I would really like to take a 5-minute break and go get the map.
I'd like to make a motion that we do that.
I second that.
Okay, take a 5-minute or 10-minute recess, whatever.
It'll
Yes.
just take me a minute to go get it.
Thank you, Ann.
We got a
Thank
motion
you.
to recess for 10 minutes. We were discussing the redistricting wards. So do we have further comments and questions from anyone? Mr. McClung?
Yes, I appreciate Madam Clerk going over and bringing that map over. It helped me a lot. You know, because the legal descriptions are so extensive, but it's pretty simple when you look at the map and what the changes are. And so...
And Mr. Mayor, I'd like to echo those sentiments too. I appreciate the effort of going over and getting that and showing it to us, because graphically it is easier to comprehend. So thank you to our city clerk for doing that for us.
So what I'd like to do at this time is go ahead and make a motion to assign this ordinance a number and read it for passage.
Second.
All right, Mr. McClung made the motion, Mr. Ott seconded. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so moved.
The ordinance number will be 2324. An ordinance redistricting the Eureka Springs election wards with an emergency clause. And again, the reason for the emergency clause is to accommodate the people in the county. Whereas Eureka Springs has an obligation and a responsibility to ensure that its election wards are of substantially equal population and serve the public's best interest, and whereas a population analysis of each city ward utilizing 2020 census block data indicates the need for ward redistricting, and whereas Arkansas law vests the Eureka Springs City Council with appointment and redistricting authority, and whereas a redistricting plan has been prepared that equalizes ward population and assures compliance with state statutes and equal protection requirements, and whereas it is the desire of the Eureka Springs City Council that a new redistricting plan be approved. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, that Section 1, the ward redistricting plan as shown on the map, which was provided a few minutes ago, and made a part hereof bearing the following descriptions. Ward 1, northern boundary, includes all the northern city limits boundaries in Section 8 and 9 west of the point where Pivot Rock Road intersects the northern city limits in Section 9, including Pivot Rock Road. Eastern boundary, commencing at the point where Pivot Rock Road intersects the northern city limits boundary in Section 9, then southwesterly along Pivot Rock Road to Dairy Hollow Road, thence along the western side of Dairy Hollow, excluding all residences therein, to the Clear Spring School area, excluding Grand Avenue and the Clear Spring School, then southeast, excluding Dairy Hollow, to the southeast corner of Section 9, then east along Section Line 10 to Anderson Street, then south along the eastern side of Anderson Street, including Anderson Street, to Step Street, then southeast through the center of Step Street to Hively Street, then east through the center of West Owen to White Street, then south to the center of Mountain Street, then east through the intersection of Mountain Street and Eureka Street, excluding Mountain Street residences, from that point eastward, thence easterly, including Rogers Alley, then southerly to Main Street, then southwesterly to the intersection of South Main and Armstrong Street, excluding all properties facing South Main. Thence northeast through the center of Armstrong to Lower Wall Street, then southeasterly through the center of Lower Wall Street to Wheeler. Thence northeasterly looping around and including all of Wheeler Street, then southerly through the center of Upper Wall Street to Highway 62 East Van Buren, then southerly to the section line 15. Southern boundary includes all the southern city limit boundaries in section 15 and 16. Western boundary includes all the western city limits boundaries in sections 16, 17, and 8. Ward 2, northern boundary, commencing at the point where Pivot Rock Road intersects the northern city limits boundary in section 9, excluding Pivot Rock Road, thence east to include all the northern city limits boundaries in sections 9 and 10. Eastern boundary, commencing at the point where the northern city limits boundary in section 10 intersects the eastern city limits boundary of section line 11. Then south along the section 10 line and along the section 15 line, including the annexed property northeast of Mill Hollow Road to the point where 117 Oak Ridge abuts the eastern city boundary. Thence along the southern property line of 117 Oak Ridge to the center of Oak Ridge, then southwesterly through the center of Oak Ridge to the intersection of Harvey Road and Oak Ridge, including all residences on the west side of Oak Ridge. Southern boundary, commencing at the intersection of Oak Ridge and Harvey Road, then southwesterly through the center of Harvey Road to East Mountain Drive, then northwesterly along the east side of East Mountain, Eccles, and Richards Circle, excluding all residences on East Mountain, Eccles, and Richards Circle. Thence northeasterly to the north side of Alexander Street, thence northwesterly, thence southwesterly to the intersection of Highway 23 North, North Main Street, excluding Alexander Street, Brush Street, and Lindsay Street. Then south along the west side of Jackson Street to Lower Flint, thence westerly to the intersection of Highway 23 North, North Main Street, then south through the center of Douglas to the intersection of Armstrong Street, then southwesterly through the center of Armstrong Street to the intersection with South Main Street. Western boundary, commencing at the point where Armstrong Street intersects South Main Street, thence northwesterly, including residences on South Main to a point directly south of Rogers Alley, thence north to the northeastward side of Rogers Alley, then west to the intersection of Eureka Street and Mountain Street, and including Mountain Street residences, then west through the center of Mountain Street to the intersection with White Street, including Mountain Street residences north of the intersection of Eureka Street and Mountain Street, thence north through the center of White Street to the intersection of West Villain, then west through the center of West Owen to Hively Street, thence north to Step Street, thence northwest through the center of Step Street to Anderson Street, thence north along the eastern side of Anderson Street, excluding Anderson Street, to section line 10, thence west along section line 10 to the southwest corner of section 10, thence northwesterly including Dairy Hollow, the Clear Spring School area, and Grand Avenue to the western side of Dairy Hollow to Pivot Rock Road, including all residents on the west side of Dairy Hollow Road, thence along the east side of Pivot Rock Road to the northern city limits in section 9. Would you like to read? Ward 3.
Ward 3, northern boundary, commencing at the intersection of Armstrong Street and Lower Wall Street, thence northeasterly through the center of Armstrong Street to the intersection of Douglas Street, thence north through the center of Douglas Street to the intersection of Highway 23 North and North Main Street, thence easterly through the center of Lower Flint Street to the west side of Jackson Street, thence north to the intersection of Highway 23 North and North Main Street, thence northeasterly along the north side of Lindsay Street, Brush Street, and Alexander Street to the southeast end of Alexander Street, thence southwesterly to the east side of Echoes, East Mountain, and Richard Circles, and including all Echoes, East Mountain, and Richard Circle residences, to the intersection of East Mountain and Harvey Road, thence through the center of Harvey Road to Oak Ridge, thence northeasterly through the center of Oak Ridge to the southern property line of 117 Oak Ridge, and including residences on the east side of Oak Ridge, thence east to the section line 15. Eastern boundary, commencing at the point where the property line of 117 Oak Ridge intersects the eastern city limit boundaries of section line 15, then south along section line 15 to the northern limit boundaries in section 14, includes all of the northern and eastern city limit boundaries in section 14, 13, and 24. Southern boundary includes all the southern limit boundaries in section 24, 23, 22, 27, and 28. Western boundary, commencing at the intersection of the city limits boundaries corner in section 28, thence north and east along city limit boundaries in section 28, thence north along the eastern section line 21, thence following the city limits boundaries in section 22, thence north to the southwest corner of Section 15, thence east 1/4 mile, thence northeasterly, crossing Highway 62, East Van Buren Street to the intersection of Upper Wall Street, thence northeasterly through the center of Upper Wall Street to Wheeler Street, and including residences on the east side of Upper Wall Street, thence looping around Wheeler Street and excluding all of Wheeler Street, thence southwesterly to the intersection of Lower Wall, thence through the center of Lower Wall to the intersection of Armstrong. Section 2, all previous adopted ward maps and boundary description are hereby repealed. Section 3, a duly certified copy of said map with the boundary descriptions attached shall be filed with the Carroll County Election Commission and filed in the office of the Carroll County Clerk.
Thank you.
Move to,
Mr. Ott?
move to accept this ordinance on its first reading.
Second that.
Did I hear a second?
Autumn did.
I did.
Ms. Slane seconded. Mr. Ott made the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to read ordinance 2324 on its second reading by
Suspend the rules.
title only.
Suspend the rules.
Suspend the rules.
I'll second that.
All right. Mr. Meyer made a motion to suspend the rules and read ordinance 2324 in second reading by title ordinance, title only. Ms. Green seconded. Any further discussion?
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Ott?
Aye.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
Yeah.
Ms. Slane?
Yes.
6-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Excuse me.
Just a minute.
Ordinance
I'm
number
sorry.
2324, an ordinance redistricting the Eureka Springs election wards with an emergency clause.
All right, Mr. Ott?
move to accept on its second reading.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I would move to suspend the rules and put ordinance number 2324 in its third reading.
Second.
Mr. Ott made the motion to suspend the rules and place ordinance 2324.
By title only.
By title only, I'm sorry,
Title
thank you.
only.
And who was the second?
Mr. Meyer seconded.
Thank you. Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Ott?
Aye.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Ms. Slane?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
6-0. Ordinance number 2324, an ordinance redistricting the Eureka Springs election wards with an emergency clause.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 2324 on this reading and in inclusion of the emergency
Third
clause.
reading.
They're two separate things.
Okay, then let's
Third reading.
get number 2324 done, and then we'll do the other.
All right, we've got a motion from Mr. Ott to accept this on third, suspend the rules and to approve it on third reading.
I'll second it.
Ms. Green seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none?
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Slane?
Yes.
Mr. Ott?
Aye.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we read the emergency clause for ordinance number 2324.
Second.
All right, Mr. Ott made a motion to read the emergency clause, and Mr. McClung seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none?
Ms. Slane?
Yes.
Mr. Ott?
Aye.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
6-0. Emergency clause, section 4, whereas time is of the essence as a result of the upcoming filing period for the 2022 city council elections, and to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, an emergency is hereby declared, and this ordinance shall take effect immediately upon its passage by council and signing by the mayor.
All right, thank you very much. All right, that brings us up to item number 4, discussion procedure at the council table. Ms. Green, motion to discuss.
Okay, I think everybody should take this home and read it, but I do like that we're a little
Are we
loosey.
going to discuss it?
Oh, motion to discuss.
Okay, get a second.
Second.
Okay. I think that I like that we're loose. I like that the mayor participates. I like that there's an informality. But I think, given the present situations that we're having, I would ask that you go to page 7, and it's called Recognition of the Mayor, and I realize Butch can't look every way at once, so sometimes he's going to miss me, or he's going to miss Autumn, or he's going to miss Nick down there. It's nothing personal. Sometimes I've had my hand up many times before somebody that's recognized, but I do think we should always let the mayor recognize us before we speak, even if we're angry. The next one is something that Bob Thomas was always after me for, and instead of saying I move, we need to really make a motion, like I move to approve the agenda of April, because for law, it's important. And it's just, I know it's a little sticky, but I really believe that that's what we should be doing.
All right, any further? Any other comments? All right, moving on to item number 5, discussion of code of conduct. Ms. Green.
Motion to discuss the City Council Code of Conduct.
Okay, got a motion. Is I hear a second?
Second.
All right, Ms. Green made motion, Mr. Myers seconded.
Okay,
Ms. Green?
if again, I'm going to say go home and read this, because recently our decorum has been awful, and I'm not going to point fingers, but there's one thing in here that is very concerning to me, and it's concerning. I've seen it at the CAPC meeting. I've seen it here. It says a city council member recognizes that all electronic transmissions sent or received in performance of their duties as a city council member are subject to the Arkansas Freedom of Information Act. I'm watching people at this table text back and forth on a cell phone, and we talk about transparency. Is somebody conducting business at the table? I don't care if somebody's just texting you to bring a question up. You need to set that on the table and say, look, so-and-so just texted me. This is the question they're asking. It's a lack of transparency. We don't know what people that are using their cell phones are texting back and forth. Maybe they're making dinner reservations. We don't know. But if somebody was to Freedom of Information Act somebody's cell phone records, we would know if they were talking or texting to certain people. And I'm going to say I don't like it. I don't think it's a good thing. I think it's not transparent, and I think it's meeting outside of what is called the Open Meetings Act. So I'm going to ask that all cell phones be off. You want to bring a laptop to look up information, I think that's great.
Mr. McClung?
Isn't a telephone the same thing as a laptop, basically?
No, you can, I suppose you could text on a laptop, then we can't bring laptops. You know, you just can't conduct business. And I know there's been business done on these cell phones, and that's not good.
Mr. Meyer, you had your hand up.
One of the things here, as a city council member, will remember at all times that as an individual, he and she has no legal authority outside of the meetings of the city council, and that he or she shall conduct relationships with city staff, local citizens, and all modes of communication on the basis of this fact. If a member of the council is calling employees of the city, CAPC, visiting with members of employees in City Hall and making them nervous, there can be a possibility of losing your tort immunity and creating a hostile work environment for those people. So please be careful and go through the mayor's office or whatever to find out these things instead of harassing employees or even going to those employees unless it's for something that is related to something that we are going to discuss at the next meeting.
Ms. Green?
Are we allowed during office hours to make appointments and come down and speak with a staff member. We're allowed to do that, correct?
Yes.
Is after hours inappropriate, or, I mean,
Yes, it is.
calling someone late at night on a cell phone and haranguing them?
Staff shouldn't be bothered after hours.
Okay, okay. All right, thank you.
Any other comments? All right. If there's nothing else, then I guess that gets us to our agenda setting. You have anything at this point? Hearing none, Mr. Ott, would you like city council comments? Start off?
Yes, sir, thank you. First up, I'd like to again state how appreciated it is that the city clerk did that work on the due diligence on redrawing the awards, because I know it can be a real tough jigsaw puzzle to put together, and she should be commended for her due diligence on that and presenting that to us this evening, and I thank her for that. Also, there was a great concert here in the Aud this weekend. I have eyewitness reports that said it was a great evening, and the neat report came back was that they were having a hard time finding a place to go have dinner because of all the people in town to going out and having dinner. So those are the kind of things that this facility here can be a producer of, and that's good tax revenue. And the discussion came in was that it's when someone has a good experience here to show, they don't say, I love the XYZ show. They might say, I love the Aud, but when they go back home, they say, I love Eureka Springs. And that's so very important to keep, not only keep our tourism level where it is, but to make it even grow even further. And again, I'd like to re-invite, it was mentioned before the meeting during the public comments, that this Thursday night at 6 p.m. At the Crescent Hotel, it's a Meet the Candidates. It's a chance to meet and greet and shake their hands and talk to them casually, as well as each candidate will have time at the microphone. So the public is cordially invited. Again, this is a nonpartisan event, and all the electorate in the communities in the county is encouraged to attend. Thank you.
Mr. Roberts?
I don't have much more to say. I just thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. This is the most people I've seen in any audience I've been in front of, and so this is great. You're the voters, you're the top of the tier, and it's important you be here and see what we're doing and bring your comments. And I hope you continue that, and I appreciate you all very much. And I love this city, and I know you all do too, and we're just going to make it better and better, aren't we? So.
Ms. Green?
Well, first I want to ditto Ann. I know that was a lot of work, and I kind of feel sorry for anybody that's on the line, because they're going to be changing their voter registration, and so hopefully the papers will put this out. There was one thing I didn't address during the code of conduct, and this one's a big one. Last meeting we had an issue on conflict of interest, and I'm going to say it again. I am not running for mayor. I have no plans to ever run for mayor nor city clerk. But it's come to my attention that there have been people that voted for that raise that have been out saying before we voted for that raise that they were running for mayor. And so voting to give yourself a raise, to me, is a conflict of interest, and I think you really should think about it, because I think that is dishonest. The next thing is I want each of us to soul search and look at each other and forgive one another, and let's start working together, because there's some great people here. We've got 2 young people here. We've got an old pro over there, another old pro. We've got a great new city attorney. I believe we've got a great mayor.
And an old guy.
I was going to be nice about you, you know. I mean, I can say
Santa Claus. How about that?
I can say I'm in the youth of my seniors. So
Thank you.
That's all I'm going to say. Let's just try to work together and put aside this meanness, and let's get past this and start working with one another.
Mr. Myers?
Yeah, I think it's time to stop just banting about the word liar. That will help, considerably in calming things down at this table. And Mr. McClung, if you have issues with the CAPC, please voice them so that they can be addressed. That's all I got to say.
Ms. Swain?
When I took this seat 2 years ago, I thought somehow I could make a difference, be a voice for change and for transparency. I have pushed from the inside, met with dishonesty and bullying, and all this from the people I considered friends. At the end of this, some of our longtime city employees have lost their jobs over a select few wanting more. We have been hushed and encouraged to remain quiet. At this point, I ask Eureka Springs, do you really want change? For years, there have been whispers on the street of Good Old Boys Club, comments of embezzlement, streets and sidewalks not being up to par, low wages for our city workers, and quite frankly, misuse of city funds, so much so that we have major issues and sewage leakage or sinkholes. There's no way to even fix these things ourselves. Or even better off, these topics are not even brought up at all. Bottom line, no matter what you want to believe, it's not up to us or anyone on this council. We are not the ones in power. You, the people, have all the power. So I encourage you all to go to the polls. You alone have what it takes to change our government and our community. Put integrity over your friendship. Change takes courage and bravery. In closing, this is an election year. We have put in place a nice salary for someone that wants to make a change to help our community, schools, and department heads. If this describes you, I ask, put your fear down and run for mayor or city council. Thank you.
Mr. McClung?
Yeah, it really hurts me that that's the first time I've ever experienced anything like tonight as far as the council goes. But, I understand where it's coming from, and the articles like that was in the Citizen a couple of weeks ago with, things, and I had no idea of any of it was going on. Contrary to what Harry thinks, when I got voted off of CAPC, I didn't want back on. I haven't been after that, and I'm not chasing the CAPC because it's the CAPC and I want something to do with it. But this has things in it that I think are very troubling, and I think there needs to be some answers gotten, and I don't know how to go about it. It's been on my mind since I read that, and I don't know how to bring it up to the meeting and what to do to resolve it so we can get it behind us. But that's what I'd like to do, and I just don't know how to go about that. I need help. But it stinks, and I want the CAPC is a fine organization, and it does a tremendous amount of work for the city, and I'm just afraid that it's going to fall apart, and I don't want that, and I just don't know what direction to take. So I'm reaching out. That's all I have.
All right. Recently I was been accused of lying. I want to be clear that I do not believe that I lied under oath. I was not accusing Tracy Johnson of embezzling during the snippet of the secretly recorded conversation made by Autumn Slane. When I sat for my deposition with Mr. Parker, I did not recall having the conversation at issue with Ms. Slane. As can be seen from my response in the deposition, I said, to the best of my knowledge. I've had lots of conversation with lots of people during the course of my day as mayor, as a professional and as a citizen, and I cannot remember every single detail of every single conversation. After listening to the recording, my recollection was that Ms. Slane was relaying to me that she had heard that there was embezzling at the city. And my response was that those rumors were in reference to Ms. Johnson. I stated that they were not about the city itself, and as had been there any If there has been any embezzlement at the city level, it would presumably be caught by the legislative audit. Both the city and the CAPC are tasked with overseeing taxpayers' dollars and ensuring that those dollars are spent carefully, appropriately, fairly, and lawfully. When information is received that this is perhaps not the case, even via rumor, that information cannot be ignored, and there's an obligation to look into it and report it to any appropriate authorities. I have nothing but the best interest and love for this city at my heart, and I think I've shown that in word and deed during my tenure as mayor. Given that there is an ongoing lawsuit in which I am named, I will not be able to comment further upon advice of council. Now, I would like to make, on a good note, and I hope everybody knows that this week, Turpentine Creek Wildlife Preserve is celebrating their 30th anniversary on Saturday, April 30th, beginning at 9 a.m., with an event that has vendors, magic, live shows, food trucks, educational programs. So I'd like to invite everybody to come out to Turpentine Creek Wildlife and celebrate 30 years providing rescue care and lifelong homes for those big cats. Also, it's nearly May, and return to the May Festival Arts in Eureka Springs. The Outrageous Parade will kick off the month of festivities on May 7th at 2 p.m. right down Spring Street. The Little River Band will also be performing at the auditorium on May the 7th at 7:30, and tickets are available at theodd.org. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so moved.